Hello and welcome to the program. This is Business Incorporated on Channels Television. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Well, let's kick off the program with the markets starting from Africa. It was all positive as intraday. The NGX traded marginally up 0.07%, while the JSE index was higher, 0.31%. At noon in Egypt, the EGX 30 was also in the green. It gained 0.67% at intraday, while Kenya closed 1.21% positive on Wednesday. Similar sentiment for markets in the Middle East. In the United Arab Emirates, Dubai gained 0.41%, while Abu Dhabi was higher, more than 0.5%, 0.67%. Elsewhere within the region, the Qatar index added 0.24%, while Saudi Arabia climbed 0.67%. Well, in Europe, there's been a shift in German security policy, with the government deciding to provide more weapons to Ukraine, about the EU's financial sanctions on Russia, and also the latest on how corporate world is responding to the conflict. Well, we have Chris Colbert now joining us from Berlin. Well, Chris, in a break from decades-long policy, Germany has decided to deliver weapons to Ukraine, and it's now expanding on it. How is that going?
Well, officials are talking about 2,700 anti-aircraft missiles that Germany could provide to Ukraine. The weapons in question are Soviet-designed Strela missiles from the stocks of the former East German armed forces. They would come on top of 1,000 anti-tank weapons and 500 Stinger surface-to-air missiles that Germany said on Sunday it would supply to Ukraine, in a shift of policy after Russia invaded its neighbor. Now, there have been somewhat conflicting reports as to how far the decision process has gone currently. German news agencies reporting that the country's economic ministry has approved the delivery. However, there are sources saying that the Federal Security Council had yet to approve the deal. Germany has for years refused to export any arms to war zones or allow third countries to send German-made arms to such areas, but amid Russia's invasion of its neighbor and what the German Chancellor calls a threat to the entire post-World War order, the government of Olaf Scholz reversed this long-standing course of policy in recent days.
And the European Union has excluded 7 Russian banks from the SWIFT messaging system, but critics say the bloc could have been more ambitious. Is there more to do?
It is indeed 7 Russian banks that have been targeted here, according to one EU official. The firms, including Russia's second largest bank, VTB, were chosen based on their connections to the Russian state, with public banks already sanctioned after Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014. Now, they are now given 10 days to wind down their SWIFT operations, the EU says. SWIFT is the dominant messaging system underpinning global financial transactions, and the EU, the United States, Britain and Canada moved on Saturday to block certain Russian banks from it, but it had not said which would be hit. Sberbank, Russia's largest lender, and Gazprom Bank were not included. And that's the sticking point here, because they are the main channels for payments for Russian oil and gas, which EU countries are still buying, despite the war in Ukraine. Officials have been concerned about disrupting energy flows to Europe, arguing it was not possible simply to allow energy-related transactions and exclude others, as SWIFT was unable to differentiate between types of payments. Now, the move has sparked criticism even among European leaders, with Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki saying the decision to exclude Sberbank and Gazprom Bank from sanctions due to what he calls transactions related to energy supplies to the EU was unacceptable. The EU Commission says the 2 banks were nevertheless subject to other measures.
All right, Chris, thank you so much for that update. But it's a fresh earnings report. Germany's flagship, Lufthansa, says it has narrowed losses, but of course it also has the impact of this war also.
Well, Lufthansa management didn't want to put out a specific number on how the impact would be. The carrier saying it expected business to improve this year, but warning of, quote, major uncertainties surrounding Ukraine and the future course of the pandemic, making it difficult to provide a detailed forecast. Russia's invasion of its neighbor has disrupted Lufthansa services, with the airline suspending flights to both Russia or Ukraine. The escalation in the conflict involving the major energy supplier Russia has also given a push to already high prices for fuel, and this surge in oil prices would create additional burdens for the group, Lufthansa said. Overall, Europe's largest airline group reported net loss of around $2.4 billion for last year, compared with a bottom line loss of $7.4 billion a year earlier. If we take a look at financial markets here real quick, they have been quite concerned over the impact of the war in Ukraine, and there's still hope of some sort of solutions, but nevertheless, after wild swings, Germany's blue chips index DAX managed to book gains of 0.7% yesterday, and that sentiment is somewhat prevailing this morning, the market failing to find a clear direction in today's early trading.
All right, Chris, thank you so much for the updates. We'll do it again tomorrow. Thank you. So we moved to the UK now. The government there says it will bring in legislation to prohibit UK-based insurance and reinsurance providers from undertaking financial transactions connected with a Russian entity or for use in Russia. And this, of course, is coupled with similar actions by the EU. We have Juliana now joining us from London. Hello, Juliana. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Annie.
So this talk about insurance and reinsurance legislation, how is this supposed to work, and what impact is it expected to have?
Well, yes, very little information from the UK government. All we had is a statement, really, saying that Russian firms will no longer have access to insurance or reinsurance markets, which is a huge hammer blow to Russia, particularly in the space and aerospace industries. And that's because London is really considered the home or the headquarters of the commercial and professional insurance sector in the UK. And this is because of the sheer market dominance of Lloyd's of London, as well as London Market. We know that this is going to have a direct impact to the aviation and the space sectors, and it comes on top of the UK government and the EU already banning Russian airplanes from its airspace. They've also grounded or terminated the contracts of private jet leases. So if you're somebody who thinks you can escape these sanctions because you've got a lot of money, that is not the case. We are going to get some more information about this legislation, perhaps in Parliament later today, or by the Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, who is this morning in Lithuania talking to allies about how they can further tighten the grip on these economic sanctions. But worth bearing in mind that this isn't just affecting Putin and the Kremlin. This is also affecting ordinary Russians. It's just because of the fog of war, and just the way the media is shaped. We're just not hearing from them, and how this is affecting ordinary Russians who are being squeezed by the neck because of this awful invasion.
Yeah, well, everyone is squeezed, Juliana. I'm sure even you and I are feeling the pinch one way or the other. But related to that also, London Stock Exchange suspended trading in 27 firms that have strong links to Russia.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, further doubling down on Prime Minister Boris Johnson's commitment to make these economic sanctions as hard as they may. We had an update from the London Stock Exchange Group today with immediate effect. They are ceasing the trading ambitions of 27 firms, all connected to Russia. This includes some of the big names that we've been talking about over the past couple of days: Rosneft, Sberbank, Gazprom, EM+, as well as Lukoil. How does this affect Britain? Well, according to the LSEG Group, these shares only amount to about 1% of the profit for the London Stock Exchange Group. So it's unlikely to affect them as much, but it will certainly affect these Russian firms. According to one economist here in the UK, Russia at the moment is just not a country you are going to invest in, even though it is considered the commodity warehouse for the West. Sberbank, for example, they operate with this document called GDR, which is very familiar in the dual listing world. It's basically a document that confirms you have shares in a foreign-based country. This now, the Sberbank's GDRs have plunged 99% today, which basically means it is worthless and worth nothing. So it just goes to show just how this grip is really affecting Russia. More to come, perhaps. That's what Liz Truss, the Foreign Secretary, is threatening.
99% is a lot, Juliana. Like you said, it's like almost worth nothing at this time. Well, what else is happening in the markets following this?
Well, the pound is having a fantastic day today. In fact, of course, no surprises, the euro has been weakened dramatically, and the British pound is rising against the euro because of that. In fact, it's experiencing its best day since the result of the Brexit referendum back in June 2016. So the pound is doing well. Shares not so good. There were gains here in London yesterday. Those gains have been completely wiped out, and that's really because of airline shares, which are really dragging down the all share today, both the FTSE 100 and the FTSE 250 being dragged down. The British Airways owner IAG, their shares were down by about 3.5%. Wizz Air was down by about 8.8%. That sits on the domestic market. EasyJet also down by about 5.5%. And that's because they are really concerned about what is going to happen with travel. We know that a lot of people in Britain do like to travel to Europe. Are there going to be fears because of the invasion? That is what investors think, and that's what's affecting the markets in London today. The FTSE all-share is down at intraday by 0.65%. The FTSE 100 is down by 0.64%, and the FTSE 250 is down by 0.47%. In the currencies market, the British pound is down on the US dollar by 0.16%, though up on the euro by 0.17%, and up on the Japanese yen at intraday by 0.06% in E.
All right, Juliana, thank you so much for the update. We'll certainly do more on all of this. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Now, let's see. In South Africa, remember that they have a new price regime for diesel and petrol, and that started on the 2nd of March. So South Africans have been reacting to this new price. Fuel prices increase. Both grades are now expected to increase by at least $1.46 or so, but some South Africans have spoken to Channels Television about how this is affecting their everyday lives.
Of taxis, I've seen them going up recently, as well as like Uber prices. So I think the higher petrol prices goes up, then the more, even as a like public transport commuter, everything goes higher subsequently. I'm a student, so I just have to like be tighter and like budget more money around like transport and stuff. So it's unfortunate, but it's what's happening.
It's made it more pricey for me to get to work and back because I have to travel a fair amount. You know, I travel more than 50 kilometers to get to work. So for me, it really made a big impact on my monthly budget.
As a motorist, I feel that it is going to be affecting us financially. From someone who doesn't generally drive around, taking an Uber or taking any sort of public transportation, I do know that's going to increase, which means that food's going to increase, which means that our budget for the month is going to increase, which isn't going to be as helpful as it currently is with COVID passing us as well.
And in Egypt, the non-oil private sector activity deteriorated at a softer pace, though, in February, and that's according to data from IHS Markit. The Purchasing Managers Index rose to 48.1 in February from 47.9 in January. This indicates a contraction because it is still below 50. New orders from abroad declined for the first time since October last year. Firms' outlook for the coming 12 months declined in February, and the level of confidence dropped to the lowest level since the series began. Now, the British Council has developed and designed the Innovation for African Universities project as part of its Going Global Partnership Program to foster the culture of innovation and entrepreneurship within universities and facilitate the development of skills required to build industries, companies, products, and services. The project is designed to support the development of Africa-UK University Partnership that build institutional capacity for higher education engagement in entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystems, and that will be in selected African countries. The Circular Plastic Innovation Hub project made the list of 24 projects selected to be a part of the program. The CPEI Hub seeks to partner major industry stakeholders and experts to foster the culture of innovation in the plastic economy sector among students, entrepreneurs, and researchers in Nigeria. The hub will be set up across various campuses in Nigeria and will serve as a center for research, collaboration, and incubation aimed at accelerating transition to circular plastic economy and innovation by students and entrepreneurs in the circular plastic economy sector. Let's see if Mayowa is back here. Hello, Mayowa, can you hear me?
Hello, Annie. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, better. So what are analysts saying as per fertilizer? And then, of course, we have Russia at the top of the chain when it comes to global fertilizer supply. With what is happening, what are they projecting?
Well, a lot of analysts are forecasting that we would see a worsening of the situation with the supply of fertilizer globally, because before now fertilizer prices have been increasing, right? Almost 3 times the price of what than what it was the previous year, and this is due to certain reasons, and those reasons are still persisting. We had trade policies. We know that China stopped exports of fertilizer till June 2022. Even Russia had also implemented a trade policy that was effective on December 2021. And also you had rising input costs. Fertilizer, natural gas is used in the production of fertilizer, and then we've seen a surge in natural gas prices over the past few months, and this has also affected the supply of fertilizer globally. And so this, with Russia being a major exporter of the 3 major fertilizers, we expect that there'll be a lot of fears, and this could actually prolong the supply shortage of fertilizer and increase prices of fertilizers globally. And what this will mean will be that we'll see higher input costs to farmers, and this would transcend to normal customers, because producers will want to pass on this cost to customers, and most likely it may affect global inflation. So global inflation may rise further as a result of the shortage of fertilizer affecting production of agricultural products.
Yeah, and then before now, we're talking about food inflation and all that. So this just paints even a more scary picture. But, I mean, this could also lead to a global decline of general agricultural outputs, resulting to stagflation. What are the wider implications of a cyclical downturn?
Well, yes, it is possible that it might lead to a stagflation. But, you know, there's still the fear of how genuine is this demand. You know, we've had the higher demand over time, and then even now, if we see an increase in demand affecting price of fertilizer, how much of it is genuine, how much of it is speculative because of fears of the Russia-Ukraine war? As she said, we already have people speculating that if people buy fertilizers out of fear, we would actually see a hike in prices, right? And we have producers that have the capacity to even produce more fertilizers, being worried that if they increase their production, they may be left with oversupply if the Russia-Ukraine war ends, and then the sanctions do not affect Russia's exports of fertilizer, right? So that is also a bit of a challenge. How much of it is demand is genuine, how much of it is speculative. I mean, we're looking at fall in Nigeria where people are buying things out of fear. But I think that the wider implication, looking at it in terms of the cyclical downturn and all, there would definitely be an increase, like we have said, in prices. But at some point, it would peak and begin to decline as the demand for products reduce. There will be less need for fertilizers by farmers, and they will be producing less because there is no demand, and they will need less when they're producing less, they will need less fertilizer. So we see a decline in fertilizer space. However, like I mentioned on the trade policies, it's important to note that China, for instance, if China begins to export again fertilizers in June 2020, we wouldn't need to be, we may not see so much of a tightening in supply of fertilizer. So that might actually help balance things in the medium term.
Yeah, but June is still a couple of months away. But I mean, Nigeria's supply or production of fertilizer has increased about 50 to 60%. Would this be a good time for Nigeria to cash in, you know, and make maybe some extra foreign exchange?
Well, when you say that, actually, you have agro inputs players. They've been complaining that even with the increase in supply from these major companies, they have the price of fertilizer locally has actually increased. Like, I think from about 5,500 per bag to about 18,000 naira per bag, and they've been complaining of this huge hike in prices. And one thing they mentioned is that these producers have been exporting their products to other countries, but somehow you look at it and you see that, okay, these companies are also probably taking advantage of the increase in fertilizer prices globally. I mean, if they have foreign exchange issue pressure in Nigeria, and if this is a way that they can take advantage of the high prices globally, they're actually already doing that. So on that, I think that is covered. I think the main concern is how to reduce fertilizer costs for our local farmers so they can increase their own production here. And so we can have a decline, we reduce imported inflation and have prices of commodities drop locally, and also how that would also help reduce inflation in Nigeria. I think that should be more of a concern right now than trying to take advantage
of what's going on in the global space. Well, there's a price for everything, Mayowa. Thank you so much for sharing those insights with us this afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Of course, when we talk about the Russian invasion, it affects everything, especially the economy. We'll bring more updates to you from Business Incorporated to Business Morning. That will be tomorrow. Thank you so much for being a part of today's episode. I'm Ini Jonapa.